The Square Ball Podcast.
Welcome to the show that's brought to you with Levi Solicitors. There's a 10% discount on your legal fees at levisolicitors.co.uk/the Square Ball. Dan, Michael and Moscow, the three with you today. You can get our membership package, TSB Plus, if you fancy it. You get loads of stuff in there, dedicated podcast feed. You get all these podcasts ad-free. You get priority access to the match ball after a game, including access to the live stream, so you can see our sad little faces in real time, as it was this week. And, of course, it won't be next week after we've beaten those lot, but, yeah, we'll see. Hey, discounts on merchandise, daily email from Moscow as well with all the essential Leeds United news, plenty of stuff to get your teeth into. thesquareball.net/plus for details on that.
This coming week, we've got something about Eric Cantona, which you can enjoy.
A two-parter.
A glorious time 30 years ago when he was playing for Leeds and we still liked him.
It's going to be a two-parter on the extra ball when we do that. First part probably happier than the second part.
Although it's all sort of sad, isn't it, in the end?
Oh, dear me. Yeah, thesquareball.net/plus for details on the membership package. 3 parts then to the weekly show. The first bit is the Leeds United news. We've got the Man United preview coming up in a bit, and then we'll pick heroes and villains in part 3. Into the news then. And the big one is season tickets are out for renewal now, on top of the all-new shiny SeatGeek platform, which should hopefully deliver substantial improvements on the ticketing situation at Leeds, which, let's face it, hasn't been great. And when we spoke to Angus Kinnear last summer, he was saying, this stuff has been in the pipeline for a while. We know we need to improve it. So hopefully it will do that. As for season ticket renewals first, flat 10% increase across the board.
It's all right, I suppose, isn't it?
They probably missed the chance to do it last summer when everybody was happy.
True. Could have put up 30% last year and everyone had gone, well, things are going well. As it is this week, everyone's like, 10% in the Championship. You
get 4 more games, don't you? You get 4 more games.
I mean, that is the obvious caveat. If we go down, 10% is absolutely not acceptable to anyone, nor is anything. They could knock 50% off, and if we go down, people would still be furious.
We can just burn the whole place down, can't we?
Yeah.
If we do go down, because that's what it still feels like. Scorch the earth, trample on the ashes, etc., whatever the phrase is.
Just play at South Leeds Stadium, because no one's going to want to go next year. So we can sell Ellen Road. Finally put that retail park on it.
Nobody's gone back to that Celino Innovation where we got 25% back for not making the playoffs. Or was it 50%?
It was 50%, I think.
Yeah, it was 25% back if we made the playoffs and didn't go up, and then 50% back for not making the playoffs.
And Gary Monk to spite him.
And it was also that if we had gone up, Celino was staying. He was going to carry on 50-50 with Radrizzani, wasn't he? So it was a right old situation. But then, you wonder why we didn't have a lot of money to buy better players than, bless him, old Caleb Ekubin and Heidi Sacco with his 70 million release clause. And you do remember that we gave half of our biggest source of income outside the Premier League back because Celino was he just trying to, was it just like a favour thing? Like, like me, I'll give you my money back if the team is no good.
He was doing his normal thing of being incredibly confident at a point, but then with this one, he had to actually give some money back. I don't know how many people actually took him up on it. I imagine quite a lot did. I obviously had my 20-year one at this point, so I didn't get the chance to have my money back, but I would have done. Yeah,
there was the other side of it as well. It was like they started to put the emotional blackmail on. If you leave that money in, it will go to support the kiddies at the academy, and you like kiddies, don't you? Everybody, the welfare of the kiddies is the most important thing. So, but if you want your money to go and spend it on things that are not children, who are our future, then that's on you.
I was just getting caught up in thoughts about owners then as you were talking about that, and my mind went on to like the 49ers. If they do take over in the summer and we are back in the Championship, what will they make of being back there? And it just led me on to thinking about Jed York, who's the name that comes up a lot when it comes to the 49ers. So I've just looked him up, and his name is actually John Edward York. So he is contracting.
J-Ed.
It's John and Edward, like Jedward.
Yes, Jedward York.
Yes, so he's actually Jedward York, which I think is amazing.
I didn't know that. Yeah,
he's only 40.
How old do you think he was?
I think a lot of the NFL owners are dead old.
Well, I think his parents own it, don't they?
And they are Denise and John.
And they're proper old.
Yeah.
Whereas he's the young thrusting. He's basically the Urkel Celino to his parents Massimo, isn't he?
Jesus.
Or Kendall Roy for Logan Roy, if you've seen Succession as well.
It's strange. There is no sort of mention of like a concession for relegation, is there, apart from the poster, like the image for promoting the season ticket renewals is Stuart Dallas, who feels like a very safe, because he'll be in next season, won't he? So it's kind of, there's not a Rafinha, a Phillips, a Melier on there. It's, well, Stewie, not only can he play everywhere, but he can sell season tickets without upsetting anybody. So,
I mean, they haven't raised prices on the general admission, have they, for what, like a decade or more now? So
to the credit of Ken Bates, his prices were future-proof. They were so horrendously expensive at a point. No one has seen any need to raise them for such a long time.
Yeah, because when you say they haven't increased since for 10 years, 10 years ago we were just out of League One, paying this money for
Billy Painter,
not Premier League football whatsoever, and we were
15th in the Championship essentially, weren't we? That kind
even
of
in League One we were charging more than some Premier League clubs for our season tickets, so it has taken a long time to catch up.
What was it Ken said though about that? If you want,
yeah, you want Premier League,
if you want,
do it.
I don't need a wetter mouth.
Oh God!
So the Iron Brew, the Iron Brew is down. Is your mouth wet? Here we go.
You want Premier League football? Want to make Premier League prices? Yeah, actually, it's good to have a little bit of still in the mouth, and you're trying to almost keep it captured. And dribbling it out. But, nevertheless, eventually you have to swallow it. And that's what we did with the season ticket prices.
I do wonder sometimes what maybe our newer listeners make of that. Maybe people have just got on board the hype train in the last few years, Premier League and all that.
We have to suffer through the real thing.
Yeah.
So this is a generous
half an hour a week on Yorkshire Radio or whatever it was. The other thing that has improved since Bates, actually, was it Celino changed this? But for ages Bates had because I can still remember the graphic we did in Square Ball with circles of showing the prices, and our children's prices were ridiculously expensive as well at one stage, because I think
he didn't care about the kiddies at all, did he?
No, and I think we didn't make any sort of price difference between like a 4-year-old and a 15-year-old either. So if you're taking like you've got kids, they don't basically pay attention to anything, do they, until they're about 10.
Yeah, and even now my 10-year-old, he struggles with sitting through a full game because it's not like playing FIFA that's fun. So
you're essentially being asked to, pay like 200 quid to take someone who would sit and eat sweets for the full afternoon. So children's prices are now half reasonable as well. But yeah, I think
the overall price of them is not too bad, generally speaking.
Yeah, it's kind of all right. I know people will probably say we're sucking up to the club or something there, but in the grand scheme of things, it's all right. I mean, there is a cost of living crisis, and so on. We need to acknowledge that the cost of everything is going up. Like energy bills in this country are about to go through the absolute fucking roof, which are obscene. But so it's against the backdrop of that. But taken in isolation, I mean, I can understand it. I mean, if it's 500 quid, it's 50 quid, isn't it?
You do still look at the prices of Arsenal and Scum and all that at the very top level, and it's two ways in that they can afford better players because they've got more income from the season tickets, but then you also wonder how the hell anybody can ever afford to go and watch them play. I think it does still seem to be I think part of the worry in the Premier League, and still will exist there with stadium redevelopment if we end up with a massive stadium, is at what point we get a huge price hike. It doesn't feel like this is it. It's a hike. But they've resisted the temptation, because it must be there where you think we'd probably still sell that stadium out if we just whack the prices up big style.
All right, Ken.
Well, exactly. You can take the Ken Bates approach and just price it at the top.
Ken Bates did it the other way, though, in that he knew there was a minimum attendance, more or less, and you could charge like 12,000 people whatever, and they would have to come. Whereas we're now in a position of you can probably charge, 50,000 people a fairly large amount, and they'll still come.
And you hope
it was always squeezing the minority was Bates's approach. In
many ways. And Bates is it backfired on him because he put the prices up so high that we stopped breaking even. We had crowds below the break even point that we needed to, which was our fault for not going. not attending in more numbers.
Why are you not enjoying this more?
Yeah.
Paying a fortune for some absolute shit.
And not to forget that he mortgaged the season ticket money as well, so he could redevelop the East Stand.
Yes, one of the things we discovered as he was leaving, that it wasn't only Fab Delph who paid for the East Stand exec boxes. It was our season ticket money for the 3 seasons ahead that then GFH managed to find ways of taking loans out upon as well, not necessarily to the club's benefits. So we've had a long journey, haven't we, to get to this point.
Although those corporate areas are now full at last.
That was the thing, is what do you do first? I suppose that's the way Leeds are kind of doing it now. Like, we'll wait until we are in the Premier League we can become a bit more confident about the long term. Then we'll build the West Stand. Whereas what we had with the East Stand was Bates doing it first, building all that stuff before anybody even wanted. I mean, that was the thing with you winning his competition to go in an executive box. One, that there was an executive box free that they could just give to competition winners. 2, that you kept winning the competition because nobody was entering the competition because nobody wanted to go. 3,
I only won it twice, and I only went once.
But how many times did you enter?
Twice.
So enter twice, win twice, which was the other thing.
Good hit rate.
Nobody was listening to his radio station, which was the where it was publicised. So it was really...
2 people at work I told about it as well also won in the first week they entered. It was ridiculous.
So how easy it was to just, how difficult it was to sell those boxes, and they didn't really take long to put in. Like, it was half a season, a summer, and then half a season to get that done, wasn't it? So if we had spent the money on a team and then got promoted, you could then have gone, right, we'll put those boxes in because now they're worth it in the Premier League. But that wasn't Bates's way around of doing things.
But the other side of this is, and you can see this in the example of looking at like Chelsea Village and how dated and shit that looks now, was that he never did it very well either.
Yeah.
Like the sign off, the spec was always crap, and one of the things that has perhaps slipped under the radar a little bit since Radrizzani has come in is that they've tarted up the corporate areas to make them look pretty cool. Like, there's one in the West Stand as well where it's all like stripped back, exposed ducting and that kind of thing, which is very
exposed asbestos.
which is very fashionable these days. But it's the same thing like the chairman's suite, where they were all kind of celebrating when we got promoted, all the stuff that's in the documentary. That's all been redone as well.
That used to be Ken's private box, didn't it, in the middle, and that's now all opened up into, it's called the Legends Lounge. I can't remember now. It's all like one big open plan bit, isn't it? But I mean, if we do like do a good job of the West Stand, which you kind of hope we will, the East Stand will look really shit. I mean, the East Stand already looks shit with the horrible beige cladding, still with the 90s blue and grey bits stuck on it. It's the whole thing's an absolute catastrophe. From the inside, it kind of looks all right, but from outside, you sort of go, ugh.
Doesn't it confuse your brain though? So I obviously started going like in the early 80s as a little kid, but I can remember sort of the mid 80s is my first proper memories of Leeds United. So being there in the mid 80s, looking at the West Stand, which was 30 years old at that point. We've now got an East Stand that's 30 years old, but that doesn't work in my mind. I can't compute the two are not the equivalent because they're obviously different building standards and, like you say, a little bit less asbestos. But it's mental, isn't it?
Time has slowed down this century in lots of ways. That's a very big subject.
But let's do it right now on the Square Ball podcast. Onto the SeatGeek side of things and the platform. This is much welcomed, isn't it? I mean, because I don't think anyone's...
We don't know yet.
See how it works.
Well,
they claim it's exciting. So if it's not exciting, I will feel miffed.
Well, because
also I want to know how exciting it can be.
The demand
to sell me a ticket,
away tickets, and so on it's always a thorny subject, and it never pleases everybody or anybody. Like the die-hard loyal ones who go every week kind of feel like they want to be able to go every week, and then other people want access to it, so they don't like the die-hard loyals who want to go every week. And there's always some sort of tension around it, and hopefully they will be able to at least add another layer of fairness to it. But who determines that fairness is a conversation for another day, isn't it?
Well, they've said one of the things they can do is ballots.
Yeah.
But the problem then you'll get is that everyone will put themselves in for every ballot and think, well, I forget one. I can then decide to go, and then you end up with you can then end up creating a large secondary market of tickets. Even if people aren't selling them on at a profit, you can get people who will just apply for tickets because they'll think, well, I might go, and I'll see which of my mates get tickets.
But then like the ballot system, I think from what like Angus Kinney was talking to us about, which I mean, it's nearly a year ago now, so I forget, but he was sort of saying like you could maybe, if you are successful in one draw, then you're excluded from the next one, so you've got to be careful about which ones you apply for because you could then miss out on the following game.
It is weird how complicated things become, and sort of we revel in the complications of it. Some of the conversations about the idea of a ballot and exactly that thing where anybody can just say, I want to go to that game, and then they'll find out if they get a ticket or not later, takes away from people who've developed these incredibly complicated and successful systems for being available to log on at the right time with like 6 different browser windows open using 2 different computers. All the things that they do to try and make sure that they get a ticket for that game have become almost a rite of passage. And a lot of people are saying that like just being able to put in and say, I want a ticket, and you get one is too easy. You should have to go through all these things. And, you know,
I feel like you've earned it.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not wrong, because it feels like there should be a process, but like SeatGeek, when you look at the other things that they do some NFL teams, not the 49ers, intriguingly, MLS, and the Lloyd Webber Theatre Group. And I can't imagine, well, there is some competition with tickets in some ways, isn't it, where people are always like, oh, you have to be there at the right time to get it. But I can't imagine people like, do people, when they're going for cats, if you haven't earned the right to the ticket, if you didn't put the hours in of getting all the browser windows open, then you can't go. Surely, in any sort of sane world, if you want to go and see a football match or cats, you just...
I like how it's cats.
What else has Andrew Lloyd Webber done?
Other ones.
Cats, etc. Then Michael's Googling as quite.
He's not the only musical producer, but anyway, yeah.
But he's the only...
Mamma Mia.
The Lloyd Webber Theatre Group.
Yeah.
Joseph, of course.
Yeah.
And his Technicolor Dreamcoat.
That's one.
But if you want to go and see Joseph Gelhardt and his Technicolor Dreamcoat,
it'll be Tyler Roberts instead.
Tonight we are using the understudy, Tyler Roberts.
All you should have to do is you pay the price of the ticket and you get the ticket and you go. But we somehow built in the idea that we have to go through this horrendous, time-consuming, awful process to earn a ticket, when really it should just be
ticking a box or whatever.
Get it back to queuing up outside the stadium. That was a better system. I think everyone should have to travel to Leeds on the morning and get in a line.
And as part of the need for the system is that weird Premier League rule that caps how many away tickets you can have at 3,000, which seems to be entirely based around the idea that clubs like, you know, Brighton, Brentford, Watford, who have no fans, are the bellwether.
You're talking about League One Championship clubs.
So we can accommodate those, but then it seems like us, who would take 7,000 to Blackburn, and at a minimum more if we could, don't have the opportunity to do that, because that generates this bottleneck where you have people who have developed those systems. I respect them for doing it, but I really wish they didn't have to bother. I wish they could just have a ticket and they could just go and spend that time at perhaps an urban farm petting a donkey or doing something nice that would make them feel better than stressing out about whether you can go to a game or not. If people want to go to a game, they should just be able to go to a game.
And Moscow, if you want to have a day off and go pet some donkeys, I think we're fine with that as well.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
The other side to this is the digital tickets as well, which is probably a much needed addition to it. Whether it's QR code or NFC or whatever it might be, just wave your phone at the turnstile and then it won't work. As we know.
Yes.
With the number of people who get referred back round to the ticket office on a weekly basis.
Yeah, and that does then have a knock on for the just giving somebody a ticket if you can't go thing. I don't know if there's things in place. I don't know if I'm imagining it, but don't Liverpool and Manchester City, who use this platform, isn't there a thing where you can just nominate some people on your account? Where you're like,
friends and family,
if I can't go, Michael can have my ticket, and it's kind of is legit. That needs to be involved somehow, because one of the consequences of the high price and the scarcity is that people buy tickets to defend their space. And you think, if I can go to 15 home games, but I'm going to miss 3 or 4 through work or whatever, you buy the season ticket anyway, because if you don't get the season ticket, you can't get back on. And you need to give some leeway to kind of legitimise that thing of just going, I'm not fleecing the club. I have paid for a ticket. I can't go to this game. So to fill that seat, I am going to give it to my trusted companion and friend, Michael. Yeah. And he will go and it will be fine. Instead of it, for some reason, clubs seem to regard that as a terrible, verboten, forbidden thing to do, of just letting somebody else go.
And some people buy season tickets to share, don't they, as well? People who maybe know they can't get to every game, or like people who sometimes, if people have got kids or whatever, they might say like
the regulations, Michael. They're not,
you go 1 week, I'll go the next.
Not transferable.
But yeah, that sort of stuff is technically against the rules. But
But I think I don't know if I'm imagining it that it's been made within the rules at some other clubs where there's a way of doing it, and I would support that sort of thing coming on board, because with you don't just share it because of how many games you can go to, but share it because of the cost. Even though ours are relatively affordable compared to the rest of the Premier League, it's still a lot of money.
I'm glad they've updated the system though, because the whole thing does feel a bit shit, doesn't it? Let's be honest.
I mean, it's got a fancy new graphic of the ground where you can look out to choose where your seat is, and
or maybe actually, if we're on this SeatGeek platform and it's at what we've got Man City, Liverpool, Newcastle, Leicester. But as you were saying, like the Lloyd Webber Theatre Group are using it, New Orleans Saints, Arizona Cardinals as well in the gridiron. Maybe if you want to, you could go to a different sport or the theatre with your same ticket. You could do friends and family within that.
Oh, you do a swap?
Yeah,
something maybe.
This week I'm going to go to the Arizona Cardinals. Just pop over.
Go to see Cats instead of Leeds against Man U this weekend.
Yeah,
I've been waiting for ages for this game, but
I fancy seeing Mr. Mustopheles.
Starlight Express is on. I could kind of fancy that as well.
Should be good. Well, we look forward to it. And what we will find in brand new shiny Ellen Road is no one's getting pepper sprayed like happened at Everton at the weekend, which the Merseyside police have said was a proportionate response to what happened.
Yeah, they've investigated it very quickly. I mean, it happened on Saturday and it's now Tuesday, and they're saying, yeah, we referred it to our investigations to make sure we did the right thing, and they say it was fine. Like, it seems like if you compare it to other investigations of other things that are happening or have happened, that seemed remarkably quick.
The police tend to be quite quick
at formulating conclusions
when investigating themselves. In particular,
the stuff we did was fine.
Yeah, we've checked and it was fine. And all of the body cam footage has gone mysteriously missing is the other thing that does seem to happen. I'm not saying that's happened in this case, by the way, but that sort of stuff does tend to go on, doesn't it? That some people and some evidence was not available, but we assure
the server was dropped into the North Sea.
We can assure you it was fine.
It was Rebecca Vardy's account. It's pepper spray does seem like a big leap. You don't often hear.
What's wrong with a good old-fashioned baton? That's what I want to know.
Well, exactly. They have other tools, don't they?
At least the baton is more directional, whereas you can get a lot of secondary pepper spraying, can't you? If you start throwing gases about.
It's not something you really want being sprayed around willy-nilly. I mean, the away end could stink at the best of times, but that's taking it to another level. But obviously weren't there, don't know exactly what went on, but I think it's best if the pepper is kept for food.
Yes, absolutely. And just to wrap up everything else that happened, under 23s and Leeds United women both postponed, so nothing on those fronts, weather, etc. The under 23s did play at Ellen Road against Liverpool, 8,500 there, which is awesome.
Which is more than we got for some Ken Bates games to circle us back to where we started. I remember there being 7,000 and some against Barnet, which was, I think, a League Cup game. Ian Thomas Moore scored in that.
Classic.
Hardly anyone there to see it. But yeah, 8,500 for an under 23s game is very, very good.
Young lad Somerville in the 23s.
It was his big answer game, wasn't it? And he did the full, when he scored his penalty, found a photographer, ran towards them and did his hands over the ears celebration that was then on Instagram the next day. So he had all that sorted out, which I'm not sure really helped. Not sure, but he did get back on the bench, didn't he, for the Everton game? Not off the bench, but it is an interesting side of that, because Bielsa's made it very clear what he will do if somebody comes to him and says, I want to go out on loan. He will say fine, but he's not actually addressed what he would do if that player then doesn't go. And I think we are seeing the answer that the door is not closed. Somerville now, it just starts again, I guess.
He's just peeking through the glass, trying to get seen.
Yeah.
And Marcel's going, no.
But he did go, well, bench. So he's not being ostracised. And I think there were some people who were worried that we will never see Somerville again, although he's sold in summer. But I think he just goes, I think I've said this before about Bielsa. He seems to have a very binary idea of whether if a player is injured, he just says, well, they're not available and they're not in my thinking. And then when they're back, they're back. I think it will be the same with Somerville. If he goes, fine, he's not here. If he's here, he's here, and he's training like everybody else.
And I will not use him.
No, well, if he doesn't turn it on like Tyler in training. The other good thing that I enjoyed from this was when Somerville won the second penalty. Max Dean had let him take the first one, had kind of gone, all right, yeah, you're going to do your Instagram stuff out. Sorry, so on you go. But then for this one, Somerville was lying on the floor, injured, apparently sobbing, like holding his ankle, and there was absolutely like, is he actually hurt? Max Dean goes over and you think, oh, Max Dean's going to see if he's all right. And you saw Somerville look at him and like go, what? And then nod. And Dean had just said, can I take the penalty? Right, take the ball. When just left him there in a crumpled heap. Did not care. And I like that about Max Dean.
He should have played against Everton.
Dean.
All the Scousers. We've got loads of Scousers. We didn't utilise them, did we?
Could have called him Dixie, couldn't we?
We've got Forshaw, we've got Gelhardt. McGurkey's a Scouser as well, isn't he? And Max Dean. Are there any more? We're very Scouse at the minute, actually.
Did you say Forshaw?
Yes.
Yeah, he was the Everton fan.
Yeah. And Max Dean was there, wasn't he? I think at some point. I think he was there as like 15, 16-year-old. Something was Max Dean.
50p to look after your car, mister.
That sort of thing.
Etc. Right, that wraps up part one.
Whoa. You're missing over You're missing out the transfer news. Calvin's definitely staying.
Oh, great. That's good news.
Has he signed a contract? Has he made an announcement? Has he done an interview where he says?
No. But Paddy Kenny says he's staying. He's been talking to Football Insider. And
I've got a question.
He says he's come through the ranks at Leeds. There'll be a lot of clubs interested in him, but I'm 100% sure they'll get it sorted.
That's a lot of certainty.
That's a guarantee from Paddy Kenny.
That's a big claim from somebody who has like 10% of his eyebrows left.
That does wrap up part one, doesn't it?
Okay.
Of the show.
All right. You sound like you're not giving Paddy Kenny much respect there, but never mind.
Part two on the way, then, where we'll preview the Man United game on Sunday. Part three, we'll pick heroes and villains from the week. Stick around for those. Also on YouTube.
The Square Ball Podcast.